Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our Future Teacher Plàticas. My name is Maribel, and I will be presenting today and going over our today's topic, which is the teacher residency programs for bilingual programs. So thank you, everybody. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes for a few more people to jump on, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I would like to invite you to type in the chat though. Tell me one thing today that you were excited about or made your day. Let's see, get some positive vibes going for today's plática. Any happy things happen today? Hiking, oh, that's awesome. I love hiking. I wish that I could go hiking more often, but I can't. Yoga and avocado toast, oh, that sounds amazing. Hi, Yesenia, buenas tardes. Got to take a nap. That sounds so nice. I can share mine. Oh, I can share two actually. I had some time out in the sun today and my dog jumped on my lap and he was like being all cuddly. But then we saw a squirrel and the squirrel was a little scary because they kept like squirrel barking at us or something. And then we went inside because I was like, no, I am not going to challenge this squirrel today because I've actually been bit by a squirrel before and it was actually kind of traumatizing. So yeah, but that's a story for another day. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for your awesome comments. Thank you for making the time to be here today. I hope that you're able to gain some new information that will help you with any future educator decisions. Here at Enseñamos, we're here to help students, guide students, help support and empower future Latinx teachers, bilingual teachers, and bringing more teachers to the Central Valley. So welcome, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. For today's agenda, we will have an overview of the residency programs locally that Fresno State and the credential program in particular partner with, and kind of what to expect from those programs, the timeline and the application process. We do have an awesome guest speaker today who will present on her experience in the program. And then we will open it up for a Q&A. And then as always, we will have our raffle at the very end. We will have it right at 5 p.m. To be respectful of your time, and we'll have some goodies to give away for today. So for those of you here today that are wondering what is a teacher residency, if you've seen the different teacher credential pathways, there is a few that give you the opportunity to fulfill your student teaching, your student hours, and one of them is a teacher residency. So in particular with our teacher residencies, they're usually about a year-long student teaching placement on the district's calendar. So you are working with the local school district. That meaning that you have additional support and professional connection. So you're actually working with real-time staff, teachers, district partners, administration. You have an experienced mentor teacher from when you first start till the very end, a university coach. So you actually have a coach at Fresno State helping you navigate your teacher residency, and then you actually work with district managers and university professors in residence. They use a co-teaching model, which is very essential with helping you during your student teaching placement and also your courses. And because we have this university district partnership, the teachers that you work with, the administrators that you work with, and also your professors or instructors, you're actually able to put in practice what you're learning in the classroom. At the same time, you're receiving ongoing professional learning and you're getting hands-on experience. And you also have district incentives such as stipends or district technology for yourself as a teacher or for your classroom. And based off the NCTR who we are report, just some more background on teacher residencies. 91% of principals agree that residents outperform teachers prepared through other pathways. 95% of graduates agree that they entered the classroom with a more effective skill than the typical new teacher. Graduates of teacher residencies increase student achievement more than traditionally trained teachers, and resident graduates are hotly sought after new teacher hires in our local school districts. And I can vouch for this as well, just from my experience with speaking to higher ed administrators, school district officials and administrators, that usually when they are seeking new teachers, they always go to their contacts first. They always go to their interns first before putting something like on EdJoin or Craigslist or anything like that. So putting having your foot in the door essentially is going to take you very far, because people are going to see that the work that you're doing with them is going to reflect on your work ethic, and they're going to know you versus having to look for someone that they're going to have to go through a hiring process for. Our first one that I'm going to go over is the Fresno Teacher Residency Program. So this one, they offer the multiple subject and education specialist credential. You're also able to get a bilingual authorization, either in Spanish or Hmong. You work with a multiple subject, foundational level math or science authorization as well. This one does have a commitment of 3 semesters. So for this year, for example, they would start in summer 2021. You do receive a $13,000 stipend, and it is a 3-year commitment. And here's the contact info, which we will be putting these links in the chat for you guys if you want to go ahead and click on for more info. Our next one is the Madera Teacher Residency Program. They also do offer the bilingual authorization in Spanish through coursework. It's also a 3-semester program, and you also receive summer experience, and you also get to go to Mexico and apply your knowledge and teaching in that experience as well. This one does start in the spring. You do receive a $12,000 stipend throughout the course of 18 months. You are placed in a bilingual classroom with a mentor teacher from the very first day. You are issued a district laptop, Chromebook. You have access to all Madera Unified School District professional learning, and this commitment to the district is 3 years. For this teacher residency program, you would contact Dr. Luz Herrera. She's also faculty here at Fresno State, and we'll put this link in the chat as well. We also do have a rural teacher residency program for school districts like Kerman Unified, Fireball, Golden Plains, and Mendota. You can be a bilingual teacher as well, particularly in Spanish through Fresno State. You do start in the fall. It is a 2-semester program, but the class is actually being held at the Kerman District main office. You can develop your expertise of trauma-informed learning practices, so they have a very specific theory of how they implement their practice in the classroom. With this cohort, it is a smaller cohort, usually only 20 to 25 students. You have an experienced mentor teacher. You are provided a technology device. You're involved in county-led professional learning opportunities, and also optional employment opportunities through teaching fellows. The next 2 that I'm going to show you, they don't have a specific bilingual authorization, but I just want to provide this information out there as well for if these are all different additional options you would like to pursue. Sanger Unified Residency offers a multiple subject and dual language credential offered. Oh, and actually our undergraduate project assistant, Dori, actually has recently experienced the process for this. So I will actually let her go ahead and present on this one if you would like to, Dori.
Yes, hi Maribel, thank you. So as Maribel mentioned, I applied for the Sanger Unified Residency program for the semester. So I'm just gonna go over my experience, and this is like my experience and kind of my insight and tips. So I was kind of drawn to it because it's a 2-semester program. And I very much advise you to reach out to Dr. Kimberly Coy, either to have a one-on-one for her to go over what really the 2-semester program kind of implies, and to ask any questions, because that's I got a lot of clarity from meeting with her in the actual interview. So you would apply to the credential program at Fresno State, just as a norm. And then you reach out to Dr. Kimberly Coy for an interview, and you also submit your interview form and your narrative. But an interview, I guess, because I don't know if it was different, but because of the kind of digital format we're in right now, mine was a group interview. So there was 2 other students or applicants there, and there was a Sanger School District sort of a contact and or leader who was actually there to give you information and to also see the interview form and narrative that you were submitting. And so one thing that you should take into account for a 2-semester program, you're taking, I believe, 6 classes each semester is what they explained to me. However, this upcoming fall, sorry, they, I think, are merging the classes so that you don't take 6 classes, you take 3 classes. However, the workload is the same. And one of my questions was, will I be able to work, continue in my own job or have my own kind of like day-to-day activities that I usually have while being in the program and while doing also the professional learning experience, which is a big part of, I believe, any residency program. And so they said, anything is possible, of course. But they would not recommend, having a full-time, trying to manage a full-time job and the 2-semester program. But, it's really up to you. I think I am very, committed, or I have this idea that I really want to finish really fast or just be in the classroom already. So it's still very an exciting option. Another thing, so 1-year professional learning experience. So that was actually explained to me as ongoing. You start, I believe, with a few hours a week at your classroom placement. And the cool thing about that is that the classroom that you're placed in for professional learning experience is the same one throughout the 2 semesters. So throughout the year that you're in the program. And I think that's a really good option, because basically, the teacher that's mentoring you is with you from beginning to end. And then they have the technology, the laptop and the iPad that they provide. And so one thing about the hiring opportunities that's different from, for example, Fresno, the Fresno residency program, is that being in the Sanger Unified Residency Program doesn't mean that you're immediately placed, which is a good thing as well, because once you're finished with the residency program doesn't mean that you don't know if your actual plans and options will change. You don't know if a year from when you started, you will still want to live in the Fresno area. You don't know if you'll want to apply out of the county. Some of you may or may not get married or going to different programs and different universities. So that's something to keep in mind. I think Sanger Unified provides that flexibility. And if you have any questions, I will try to answer them as best I can. Again, I am not like an official representative of the Sanger Unified Residency Program. I just applied and I got tons of information. And so I'm very willing to share from what I learned.
Thank you, Lodi. And lastly, the last partnership that we have is with Clovis Unified. So the Clovis Teacher Residency Program, you can do the special education residency, the mild to moderate or moderate to severe education specialist credential. With that one, you do have 3/4 of your master's degree coursework completed. You do receive a $13,000 stipend to cover tuition. It is also a 3-year commitment to teach at Clovis Unified. This one is for fall 2021. The courses only are at Fresno State. Affirmed for spring 2022, fall 2022. You would have a student teaching placement and Clovis Unified coursework with Fresno State. I would like now to introduce our guest speaker for today. Guadalupe de la O is a Fresno State alumna from the class of 2019. She is in the last phase of the MS BAB Spanish and Special Education Mild to Moderate Credential Program. She will be teaching this fall in a dual immersion classroom. Welcome, Guadalupe. Thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. Oh. And I'm sorry if you hear lawn mowing. I think they just started cutting grass outside, so I apologize ahead of time. But yeah, so I can share a little bit about my experience. It is a little bit different, I will say, just because I am part of the Fresno, we call it FTRP, the Fresno Residency Program. And I believe it does. I seen a question in the chat, and I do believe it does start in the summer. That's when I started. So, and it is a 3-semester opposed to what Dori shared. If I'm not mistaken, the Sanger's 2 semesters. With Fresno residency, I did start summer of 2020, and then fall 2020, and then spring 2021 would be my last. This would be my last semester in the residency program. Just a few things about it, as far as it being different, just because it was during COVID year. And typically everything would be in person, and kind of like some of the things that Dori shared that was shared to me before applying, that typically working isn't recommended, just because of all of the courses that you'll be taking, and then especially being placed in a classroom does take up a lot of your time. I, for one, am working right now, just because, like I said, things were a little bit different during COVID. Everything was online. So from classes to virtual teaching was all online. So then I was able to afterwards just quickly go on to my part-time job, sort of thing. But now that we're back in person, I'm finding that struggle from teaching in the classroom from 8 to 4, because you are designated a certain time that you have to be with your mentor teacher. So from 8 to 4, and then on top of, your course homework, on top of your lesson planning for your classroom, it is a lot. So that's just something to keep in mind if you do decide to do that. And again, things were a little bit different, just because it was during COVID, everything was online. Now that we're slowly getting back to in person, I know that they're trying to go back to their I guess, regular way of doing things. So that'd be like a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 type thing, on top of your Fresno State courses. And as far as the program itself, like I said, it's a 3-semester program. So you start summer, fall, spring. The good things about it that kind of pushed me to join this program was because of the stipend. Like I said, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to work or not. So I kind of jumped at it when I heard that they'd be giving a stipend for participating in their program, which did cover tuition costs for me. So that was kind of like the main reasons why I wanted to join the residency program. And another reason was because they do secure you that position with Fresno Unified upon successfully completing, obviously, your Fresno State courses and the requirements that you have to do while you're in the program, like completing, your hours in the classroom and that sort of thing. So for example, in my specific case, I've had informal interviews with different types of principals or different schools. And because I am in the residency program, it's not a formal interview. They just want to get to know you, because your interview process is when you're getting hired. And I do like quotation marks because you're technically going to get interviewed to join the residency program, and that's already your foot in the door, kind of like how Maribel said at the beginning of the meeting. It does get you that foot in the door. So once you're at the end of the phase, like where I am right now, you're being recommended, you're being referred to different school sites, and they're kind of just calling you because they want you. You already are attending meetings. So that's kind of what you do in the residency program. You attend a lot of professional development meetings and those sort of things that principals and school sites want. So you kind of already know how the system works. And like Maribel said, your foot's in the door, they're wanting you. And they just kind of want to get to know you now, because you already did the first step, which was being interviewed by the residency program, which are people from Fresno Unified. And so at the end of your phase, like I said, they're contacting you to just kind of get to know you, see if you're a right fit for their campus. And I believe it's a lot smoother. So in my experience, I find this to be a lot more, I guess, less overwhelming than it would be if I had to find the jobs on my own, if that makes sense. Let's see. And as far as the program itself, I think it's great. Kind of like Maribel shared earlier, you are with, I kind of think of it as you're kind of being, your hands being held while you're going through the program, because you do have a lot of support. Dr. Hart is actually really great. He works for Fresno State. And then there's Amy Bennett, who's the person that we contact for Fresno Unified. And them two work hand in hand to kind of get us the support that we need. So I really do feel supported from the beginning of the program to the end of the program. And they're really on top of their like emails and contacting us and updating us on what we need to know, and that sort of thing. But again, I'm just kind of a participant in the program myself, and I'm just sharing my experience with you all. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may all have. So yeah, thank you, Maribel.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I have a question. Well, I actually have two questions. The first one is, how has the program been in regards to like applying the bilingual authorization, like what you're learning or how that experience is in the classroom? And like you said, right now, you mostly have worked with students like via, online because of COVID. And but how has that been, like, especially like if you took the classes, the student population? And then my last question would be like, what advice you would have for our students today?
Yeah, so I am doing, so my credential is in multiple subjects, so elementary school setting, and it is with, my emphasis is in the bilingual authorization program, so in Spanish. And then I also decided to get the special education mild to moderate credential. And that was only because once you're in the program, Dr. Hart is really great at individualizing your pathway. So if you look online, it kind of gives you an idea of the different types of courses that you would take in the credential program. It'll say like phase 1, you take these courses, phase 2, you take these courses. But in reality, once you're in the program and you kind of finalize what pathway you want to take, whether it's in single subject, middle school, high school math type thing, or if you want to do multiple subject, but only in an English setting, and that sort of thing. Once you kind of figure out what you want to do, Dr. Hart's really great at individualizing those pathways for you. And that's how he made this possible. So I can take my credential program along with those special education courses. And the bilingual authorization was just easier for me because I already completed those courses as an undergrad. So for those of you who are still receiving or taking their undergrad courses, I do highly suggest that you do knock those classes out of the way so you have more, I guess, room to work with once you're in the credential program. One, if you're sure you just want to do, let's say, your multiple subject, or if you want to just focus on your one English subject, then it'll be much easier for you because, like I said, it is kind of fast paced. You're spending time in the classroom and doing your own coursework. But if you want to do multiple subject and the bilingual program, you at least get that out the way before you enter the program. And like myself, I got that out the way, and then this opportunity presented itself. You can take a few extra special education courses and then have that under your belt, and it just kind of makes you look better. And that's the real reason why I did it. It just gives you more room to work with. So it's my multiple subject with elementary students in a bilingual setting, and then I also have the special education part with mild to moderate students. So I have the opportunity to work with anybody from birth to 22 years old. So that kind of expands the elementary setting because 22 years old, so they're adults. So that's with the special education credential. And as far as, I'm sorry, Maribel, can you repeat one of the other questions you had?
Okay. I think I said any advice you would have for our students today.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be to really kind of figure out what it is that you really want to do. I know college is all about figuring out ourselves and what we want to do and that sort of thing. I did work for teaching fellows before, or while I was during my undergrad years. I wasn't teaching fellows. I did work as a teacher's aide in a daycare, and just kind of going through that, just kind of reinforced why I wanted to be a teacher and continued with it, because you can always switch your major and that sort of thing if you don't want to be a teacher. But I would suggest you ought to kind of start putting in that work to just make sure that this is what you want to do, because this, especially now during COVID or post-COVID or whatever you want to call it, they really need that affection. They really need caring teachers and that sort of thing. So if you think this is the right fit for you, I highly suggest that you go for it. And there are different programs like Maribel shared today. Mine specifically, I'm in the Fresno residency program, and there's a lot of support. There is a lot of support out there for you, which I was just surprised about. And just another thing for those of you who may be scared, like I was before joining the residency program, as far as once you finish the program, you're just kind of thrown in a classroom. That's what I thought, and that's not the case. I learned that you go through this induction phase after you finish the credential program once. So for example, I'll be teaching in August, and I used to think I was going to be left alone and do my own teaching, but you still have that support. For the first 2 years that you're teaching, you still have Fresno Unified support who review your lesson plans with you and that sort of thing, just to make sure you feel comfortable being left alone. So that's all I had to share, Maribel.
That's really awesome to hear. Thank you for sharing today.
Of course.
Does anyone have any questions for Guadalupe? Either please feel free to unmute or add it to the chat. Go at it. Anything about her experience, or particularly for the Fresno teacher residency program? And we'll have more time for questions for the other programs as well. But for right now, do we have any questions for Guadalupe?
Hello, my name is Lucia. I had a question about how does the stipend work? Is that something we get at the end, in between?
So I will admit it was a little tricky just because it is in between. So I know with Fresno State specifically, my experience with Fresno State, you typically have to pay tuition before that semester starts, right? So in order, and then again, so one thing that reassured me with the program is that you don't get dropped from your classes. Once you're in the residency program, your set courses are reserved for those who are in the residency program. So I know sometimes once, if you don't have a certain like hold on your account, you'll get dropped from those classes. And then whoever gets to register after like the certain date, they're able to take your spot. That's not the case in the residency program. You do have your spot secured. And then you can either wait until you do get that stipend. They're usually good about sending it before the due date, but there's been times where they just kind of get, because especially because of COVID, a lot of our stipends were put on pause or came in late just because nobody was really working in the financial department with Fresno Unified. So that was our case. But again, your spots are reserved if that's what you need it for, to pay for tuition. Your classes are reserved, and they are given out within 3 stipends. So like for the summer semester, fall semester, and then the spring semester. So you do receive them in portions, if that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Any other questions for Guadalupe?
And Maribel, I can share, I did get a message in the chat about my experience with teaching fellows. I did teaching fellows for about 3 years, 2 of those being after school tutor. I was hired on for a 3rd grade substitute, or I'm sorry, a 3rd grade after school tutor. And I mean, I enjoyed it. I love the kids that I worked with, and it kind of just kept, like I said, reinforcing why I wanted to be a teacher. And that's why I did it for so long, pretty much throughout my whole my undergrad years. And then I did that for about 2 years, and then after school, and then for the last year, I did morning. So there are opportunities to either tutor in the morning or tutor in the afternoon, depending on obviously your school schedule. So I would say that.
Thank you. If you have any more questions, please feel free to add them in the chat or DM us through the chat feature, and we will have more time for questions right now in a bit. Let me see. Oh, we have 2 more. I would like to know your weekly schedule during the residency, and are we allowed to go ahead of our set courses and do them in our undergrad, or does it have to be done in the program?
So for my weekly schedule right now in the residency program, it's Monday through Thursday. We are dedicating that to our site placement, so wherever you're going to be placed. And that's typically 8 to 4. Right now it's 8 to 4 because we're back in person. Before it was whatever time your teacher works. So I'm placed with TK students, and their schedule was a lot shorter online. So I would do 9 a.m. to about 12:45, and then we would still stay behind to plan with the teacher. So give or take, it'd be maybe from like 9 a.m. to 1 or 2, but that was virtually because of COVID. Now what you can expect is a typical 8 to 4 day. We are expected Monday through Thursday. That's how it is right now with the residency program. And then Fridays are reserved for professional development learning with the Fresno Unified staff. So like I said, Amy Bennett usually holds like update meetings on Fridays, or just professional development for different types of targeted reasons. So those are Fridays. And those are typically around, right now, they're typically from like 1 to 3. So it's not your whole day, but it is about 3-4 hours of your day on Fridays. And then just depending on your courses, they're spread out throughout the week. So they are evening classes. One thing that I did know before COVID, pre-COVID, was that with the residency program, which I'm sure they're going to most likely go back to this routine, is you can have 2 options between, I believe it's a morning cohort and an afternoon cohort, just depending on the classes, right? So obviously you're going to still need to leave some time so you can be able to be in the classroom with the students if that's 8 to 4. And then you just pick the days that you would want to have your evening classes, whether I believe it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, or you can choose to do Thursday and Friday, but your evenings are much longer, if that makes sense. And I think that's what they're going to go back to now that everything's starting to open up and people are going back to in person. But that's typically what our week looks like, combining professional development meetings, being in the classroom with the mentor and planning and prepping. And then you also do attend the school meetings that the teacher attends. So you're pretty much following along your mentor all day. And then on top of your coursework. Let's see. And then as far as getting ahead of your courses in the residency program, I don't believe we're able to do that. As far as things like, let's say you're trying to do the, the bilingual authorization program, those courses are available as an undergrad. And like I said, it's better if you get that over with as an undergrad. And then one thing I would add, once you're in the residency program, they towards maybe the end of your second phase, like because Fresno's the Fresno residency program is 3 semesters. So during your second semester, they'll start suggesting master programs. And the benefit with that is that you can start getting ahead on those master courses. So not so much undergrad work, but if you want to get ahead and start master courses, once you start your last phase, they'll start registering you for those courses needed, and you'll finish your master's program, depending on which masters are available, much sooner, if that makes sense. So there are those opportunities. And again, Dr. Hart's really great at individualizing your pathway, like I mentioned. Let's see. And if I'm not mistaken, it was four classes for the bilingual authorization. And I'm not too sure if they changed, but the ones that I took were, I believe, Spanish 217, Spanish 219, Spanish 136, and then there was one more, but I want to say that it was 4 classes.
You're right. Yeah, for our bilingual authorization program, which I'll go over in a little bit as well. They did have 5 classes that were available in undergrad and 1 that you could do in the credential program. But it has actually been redesigned so that you can take 3. 2 you can do during undergrad and 1 you can do in the credential program, which I believe is Lee 136. And now they have CI 185 and Lee 137.
Oh, even better. Thank you for clarifying, Maribel. And I want to say those were all the questions that I see so far.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, we will have more time for questions towards the end, but thank you so much for answering those and for sharing your experience in the program. It really is valuable, you know, when students share with each other from peer to peer to peer. So we really appreciate your time today. So thank you, Guadalupe. I wanted to go over really quickly the requirements for how to get into a teacher residency program. So when you're applying to the credential program, you're applying to the credential program. And then if you're going to pursue a teacher residency program, you would have to apply to that as well. In some cases, as well as reapplying to the university. So right here, that's why it's listed as 2 applications, 1 to Fresno State as a new student, as a credential student, and then to the Fresno State credential program. And then in some cases, some residencies do require their own district application. You do have to have a bachelor's degree or 90 units towards your bachelor's degree, which in our case, we accept 90 units towards a blended liberal studies degree. A GPA of 2.67 or higher, or overall 2.7 or higher in the last 60 units. There's a special consideration form if you would like to appeal those GPAs. You do need to have taken the CBEST, and I would recommend that you take the CBEST sooner rather than later. Preferably right out of high school if you can, because a lot of the material on the CBEST is based on material that you learned in high school, so it's more fresh in your mind. And you don't want the CBEST to be the reason that your application or that you get delayed in turning in your application to the credential program. Right now, because of COVID, there is an emergency order or an executive order where the CBEST is waived. There is a special circumstance form that you can submit as well. It's not taking the CBEST away. It's just a form that says that you will take it at some point in time. But right now, due to COVID, they do have that in place, and I'm not sure how long that will be in place. You do have to fulfill subject matter competency, either through the CSETs or a graduate of a state-approved subject matter preparation program, which the liberal studies program at Fresno State is a subject matter preparation program. So those CSETs would be waived and you would fulfill the subject matter competency at Fresno State. And some additional items, a certificate of clearance, which we also recommend applying for early in case it would take more time. Pre-program field experience, you need at least 45 hours. 2 recommendation forms. You do have to schedule an admission interview and personal narrative. You do have to schedule a TB risk assessment. You have to complete mandated reporter certificate training and order, or you don't have to order, but have unofficial transcripts. And so for that, if you want to start in the summer or fall, the deadline is April 1st. And for if you're starting in the spring, the deadline is for November 1st. So if your program starts in the summer or fall, the deadline is April 1st to clarify. And then if your program, teacher residency program starts in the spring, then the deadline is November 1st. And I wanted to go over this really quickly. Here at Enseñamos, one of the resources that we provide is advising on obtaining the bilingual authorization for our students that are wanting to do the Spanish BAP, but we also do support students that want to do the Hmong BAP. But for this particular flyer, I have the pathway for the Spanish BAP, which is pretty similar to the Hmong, just different classes. But essentially, you would just attend an information session with your advisor or with me, and you would want to create an educational plan if you want to include the courses. Ideally, how Guadalupe said, it's best to complete these courses before the credential program, because during the credential program, you're going to be very busy with your student placement and additional professional development and courses. So it's going to be a little bit harder to be available when these classes are available. You want to complete the CBEST and fulfill any credential prerequisites. So any pre-program field hours, any course prerequisites, you want to have those done. So you have 2 options. You can either complete the 3 classes or you can do the CSET Lote examination, which does contain 3 subtests. You can do either or. If you do the 3-course pathway, LE 136, you can actually complete during the credential program, and it's only offered in the fall. So you would only have to worry about CI 135 and LE 137. And with the CSET Lote, for example, let's say maybe you took CI 135, but you changed your mind and you wanted to do the CSET Lote, it is possible that you wouldn't maybe have to take the last subtest, or depending on your situation, if it is something like that, we would work more one-on-one on you to figure out what would be the best option for you. But just letting you know, you do have 2 options to complete and obtain your bilingual authorization. So depending on which one you pick, you do have to apply and be accepted into the Fresno State multiple subject credential program. So just to clarify, the bilingual authorization is only for multiple subject credentials. If you want to do single subject, they have their own authorization for teaching English learners and having a Spanish authorization. You would complete the credential program, the phases, student teaching. You do have to take the RIGA examination, which is a separate exam within the credential program. And then once you fulfill all of that, you would apply for graduation and then apply for your preliminary credential through our office at the Kremen building in Ed 100, which they go through CTC, and then you would have that authorization on your credential, on your preliminary credential, which exists with your credential every time that you renew it. So if you have any questions about any of this, let me know, put it in the chat, or if you would like to email us with any questions or want to set up a meeting with me on how to get the bilingual authorization in general, and then moving forward with your bilingual authorization in the credential program, I would be more than happy to meet with you guys. Here are the contacts. I'll take a picture of this, take a screenshot. I have put all the contacts for all the residencies that we presented on today. If you have any additional questions, if you want more information, they're all here. So I'll give you guys a moment to save this. But all the specific contacts for each residency should be here. Our residency partnership coordinator is Dr. Horsley. She's the one that coordinates all these partnerships with each of these school districts and also has more information on each of these programs. If you have any questions about the credential program in general at Fresno State, they do offer online informational sessions. You can sign up online. We'll put this link in the chat as well, where you can attend a session and they'll go over the various credential programs that are available here at Fresno State. If you want an advising appointment about the credential program, you can also email the Kremen School at csufresno.edu if you want more one-on-one time with advising on the credential program. Go ahead and save this as well. Oh, I forgot my Q&A slide, but, but if you have any questions, please let us know. Feel free to unmute yourself or add it in the chat as well.
Maribel, we actually have a question. I know we went over this real quick, but I want to make sure we don't miss her. We're being asked, does the CSET have to be completed before a residency program? Or can they complete it during? Is that something we can answer?
If you're a Fresno State student in the liberal studies program, you do not have to take the CSETs. Or are you talking about the CSET Lote examination? If it's the CSET Lote examination, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gladys, but I believe you can take that at any time. It's not a requirement for the credential program. The CBEST is though, and that is a different exam.
I was talking about the language CSET. Would that be the Lote?
Yeah, so the CSET
Okay.
Lote examination, I believe you can take at any time. I would say you want to take it perhaps before you apply for your preliminary credential, so that you're not waiting for that to be added onto your credential. But from my understanding, I have heard of teachers that have been interested in obtaining that credential, and that is, that authorization, and that is one of the ways that they can obtain that authorization. So it sounds like you can take it at any point in time, but if you want to have it on your credential, on your preliminary credential before you start in like applying for a school district positions, that would just be my personal recommendation. But yeah, that way you're not, oh, that's my dog. That way it's not delaying any goals or positions that you're searching for.
Thank you.
Hey, it's okay.
I guess I do want to point out that there are individuals who have already gone through the credential and have been teaching for many years and have recently gone. I think we had a piloted program just before COVID hit us of students who went the CSET Lote route to get their bilingual authorization after the fact. Like Maribel stated earlier, it is tied to your credential, right? So only multiple subject credential teachers can obtain the bilingual authorization, but you can do it anyway if you go the CSET LOTE route. And LOTE, LOTE stands for languages other than English. So that's correct, Amanda.
Thank you, Gladys. A question, can we take the CSET LOTE even if we're not in the credential program yet? I believe so. Is that correct, Gladys?
I want to say yes. Definitely check out the website to see what the limitations are. And I do want to warn you that one of those limitations currently may be that the testing site might not be open, or they have other restrictions, or they might be full. Like a lot of them are impacted because several of them closed during COVID. And so definitely call the one you're attempting to go to, as long as you have proof that you've taken that CSET LOTE, and then say like a year or two later, you go through the credential program. Those test scores should, because they are yours, qualify you for the bilingual authorization program. But I definitely want to, sorry, I just realized my video's off. I definitely want to encourage you all. I mean, again, we talk about testing and how, it has its limitations. And the reason I intentionally wrote in the chat, if test taking is your forte, if you feel strong at test taking, definitely go that route, right? I'm not going to stop you from doing what feels right for you, and encouraging you definitely to do what's best for you. But I feel like we need to do like a whoop whoop to like just very excited about the fact that the bilingual authorization used to be a 5-course pathway, and it just recently got revamped with hard work of our director and some faculty that has partnered with us. They have been championing, this being more accessible for all of you. And now that it's no longer 5, it's 3 courses, it is definitely way more attainable. If you're an individual who is like, oh, test taking is not my forte, it just, when you have to pay for an exam and you have to, like study for it, it has some added stress and pressures for you. And if you have the means to be able to take those courses, I feel just personally that like the engagement that you're going to have with students that are taking this course with you is going to give you much more like in-depth learning opportunity. And I know that that's me like potentially wearing my like, professor hat, but also just like as a human being. When I went through the grad program, I learned a lot more from the individuals around me, right? The relationships that I built with my now colegas, and the experiences that they have in their classrooms. And so if you, can't decide which route to go, and you want some, like guidance or advice or anything like that, and I know that you all didn't ask for it, but I wanted to throw that little tidbit out there to think about, what am I going to gain, sitting in a room taking an exam, versus what am I going to gain being able to build a relationship with individuals who are going into dual immersion programs, or dual language programs. If you have that choice, like take the one that you feel is best for you. Sorry, that was a really long answer, but I hope it answered the question, and for you to consider those things, and just celebrate the fact that you have options, right? So
Thank you, Gladys. Another question, could I take the courses even if I'm not enrolled in the credential program yet? I am a CSU B student planning and attending Fresno State. So if you're transferring to Fresno State, yes, take the courses. During undergrad, you can take CI 135 and Lee 137. During undergrad, and then Lee 136. You don't have to take during undergrad. That one's actually reserved for the credential program. And for that one in particular, for the Spanish BAP, that one focuses on teaching content in Spanish. So that's one of the reasons why they save it for the credential program, so you can learn in the class, in your courses, and then apply it to your classroom. Same thing with the Hmong. BAP, there is 4 classes that we suggest you take during undergrad. for the Hmong program. And then I believe their fifth class is also called Lee 136, but that one is teaching content in Hmong that they also reserve for the credential program. Any other questions? And again, if anything else comes up later, if you remember something that you wanted to ask or you want more information, feel free to email us, set up an appointment with us. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions and send you in the right direction. Does taking the Spanish classes ahead prevent you from joining the Fresno residency program? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. The classes that we have redesigned now from the 5 to the 3 course program is actually intended to reduce those barriers from making it harder to persevere in the credential program. The reason we have them down to 3 now is so that it's easier to add them to your schedule during undergrad, and you don't have to worry about them during the credential program, because like I mentioned before, in the credential program, you're going to be busy. Like, for example, like in the Fresno residency program, how Guadalupe was saying, she is expected to be there from around 8 to 4, and sometimes those classes are offered during that time, so you wouldn't have the time literally to step away from your student teaching or from professional development or your credential courses to be present for those BAP classes. So I don't see how, I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding, but I don't think taking them during undergrad would prevent you from applying to the Fresno residency program. And if you are a student at a different university who is attending Fresno State for the credential program, I would say talk to me or talk to our bilingual authorization coordinator so that we can help you strategize how to best obtain the bilingual authorization. Either if we can somehow find a way for you to take those classes or go on the CSET Lote option. And I would just like to say thank you, Guadalupe. She does have to step out to another meeting, but she did put her email in the chat if you would like to ask her any more questions or connect with her. Thank you so much, Guadalupe. We really appreciate you being here today. Honestly, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye. And one last question, is it possible to do both multiple subject, math, and multiple subject language? Do you mean that as your concentration?
I just thought, like, is it possible? Because usually whenever they discuss, they say like just do like one pathway, you know, like doing the language route or like doing like the math or science route. But I was just thinking, like, I mean, it might not, I don't know if it's possible, but I'm like, is it possible to do both?
I mean, I think if, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dori, you have more experience in the liberal studies program as you are currently in it. I don't have my background in liberal studies, but from what I have seen, like, it seems like you might be able to do it if you could add all those additional courses to your schedule, but I don't know how strict they are on that. Would you know that, Dori? Like if you can do more than one concentration. I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. That actually sounds really new to me. I would say I've heard that almost sounds like a dual credential, right? So I really haven't heard of that before, but So I would say reach out to Ivy or anyone at Ed100, because I feel like they would give you a lot more insight. Like right off the bat, I would say, yeah, you should be able to do it. But they would actually look at, you know, your transcripts and where you're at and be able to tell you yes. Also because of any deadline that you have upcoming if you're a junior or senior.
Yeah, and yeah, because multiple subject they have their own like specialization. So I think what you mean is like if you can do the authorization in like the bilingual or the we said earlier, they have like a almost like a STEM type of thing. But I would contact the contact person for that just to double check. But I can look more into that and see if I can get an answer for you, because it sounds like you would be very immersed in one or the other. So I'm not sure if you would be able to do both.
Oh yeah, thank you. I was just curious.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And really quickly before we move forward with our raffle, please feel free to complete our survey. That really helps us determine what Plàticas to have open for you, what kind of stuff you guys want to see at Plàticas, what you have and suggestions for us and how we can help you in future Plàticas. So as we set up the raffle wheel right now, take a picture, or we'll put the link in the chat right now as well to complete our survey. And yeah, thank you everybody for all your questions.